Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Wednesday Wisdom, and Happy New Year. Hopefully, you all have kind of transitioned out of holiday mode, and if you're still in holiday mode, good for you. Enjoy your time. But we are back at it for the first Wednesday of 2024, and I'm going to jump right to the message. I realize that with the new year, people enter into these resolutions or new agreements, let's say a gym membership, or maybe you're in the process of moving to a new place. And so there are a lot of things going on. Even maybe you got a Christmas gift that requires some sort of sign up or license agreement to use it, if it's some sort of electronics or anything along those lines. And so my message this week is to read and understand the fine print in those agreements that may accompany some of those gifts or some of those memberships or some of those encounters you have with any kind of new business. And so what I wanted to first do is look up what fine print actually means, if there is a definition out there somewhere, and of course there is. And so I found a couple, and I wanted to share those with you. And so as I bring that up for me, from dictionary.com, fine print, which is a noun, is besides printed matter in small size type, is also the detailed wording of a contract, lease, insurance policy, or the like, often set in type smaller than the main body of the document, and including general restrictions or qualifications that could be considered disadvantageous. And so back in the old days, fine print actually did mean literally fine print or finer print or smaller print from the main body message or the main part of the document. But now it doesn't necessarily need to be a smaller font, but please keep in mind, typically the person or the entity on the receiving end is going to have some disadvantageous position as part of that provision or those terms in that particular section of this document or agreement. Another part of a definition said, especially considered as containing unfavorable conditions that the signer might overlook. And so I bring this up because several weeks ago, I had a client that came in and brought me a lease agreement that she wanted me to review. And when I tell you, besides the lease agreement being some ungodly amount of pages, like over 20 pages long, and this was in an apartment complex that the property management company is a seemingly large company. And I'm not talking about just single landlords. These types of lease agreements are by these bigger companies. But when I tell you the early termination clause, or really in this particular agreement, it was clauses that required any tenant, if they wanted to, or if they had to move out before the end of their lease term, that would cost them literally thousands of dollars to terminate that lease agreement early. And there were some other provisions in there that just made my head swirl. And there are countless other types of contracts and agreements out there that would have these fine print provisions in those agreements that you really, I can't stress this enough, you really need to take the time to read through and make sure you understand what is required of you and what your recourse may be if something were to happen where you would have to break that agreement or break that lease. And so it's always important to take your time and read through those things. I know it's a pain. I know people don't like to read. Adults don't like to read. We want stuff quick, right here in shorthand, in emoji language, in social media language, but you really need to take the time to read through anything you're signing your name to. And another point before I leave you with that, if the other party is rushing you to just, oh, it's just the standard provisions, you can just go ahead and sign it. If you're feeling rushed and if your gut is telling you that you really need to take your time with it, that should be a warning sign. That should be a red flag that maybe you shouldn't sign it, or maybe you should have an attorney or someone else from an objective standpoint or perspective review it with you. And always ask questions if you have questions. Don't be too scared to feel too embarrassed to ask the questions if it's something you don't understand. Those bigger companies out there are betting on the fact that you're not reading through this. If you are and you're not understanding it, you're not going to bring up any questions. You're just going to sign because, unfortunately, a lot of people are in a position that they need housing, or they need to sign up for whatever it is they're signing up. They need that product. They need that service. And so they typically put themselves in a rush to just hurry up and get it done. And the other side of that agreement, they know this. They know that people, by and large, our nature is to just hurry up and do it because we want it done. And you're not recognizing and reading the fine print. So at the start of this year, let's take care of business. Let's do what needs to be done, but let's take our time and make sure we do it right and not get ourselves in a bind to be fixed and cost more down the road. Okay, so with that said, again, Happy New Year. I hope you all have a most prosperous, happy, healthy, safe 2024, and we'll see you next time.